Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the fully comprehensive guide to farming progression. This is updated as of Garden V2, which is pests. I don't know if it's actually Garden V2, but it's updated as of that. Updated as 2024. This guide was written about a month ago, so as a disclaimer, the prices in it might be a little bit off, so you're gonna have to figure that out for yourself. But other than that, let's get into it. One thing I would like to add, if you're curious about my credentials, I am level 423. I've been farming for a long time. You take a look at my desk, I have 3 crops done, well on the way to most of it, most of the pests done, just in case you were curious. I do want to ask you guys to please scroll down and subscribe. We are going for 30K and the YouTube rank, and every subscription helps me out immensely. I'll also be live at twitch.tv/TheOGYadi as this video goes live, or if you have any other questions, make sure to check me out there. And without further ado, let's start with the guide. So with farming being probably most of players' first skill, like the first skill that most players get into where they start building their network, start getting their money, this is what I recommend people doing. You're not going to have anything when you start. Your first goal needs to be to unlock gardens. So you can kind of run around Skyblock, figure out whatever you want to do. You need to get to Skyblock level 5 in order to unlock the garden. Before you have garden for early farming levels, what you can do is you can grab yourself a rookie hoe. You can head over to the librarian and you can enchant it with harvesting 5, which I believe is always unlocked. After you do that, you want to head over to the blacksmith. Just get any old reforge on it, preferably not zooming though, because it does not give any bonus farming fortune. I believe the one you're looking for is robust, and there it is, because you'll get +2 farming fortune from that. And basically you're just going to be doing hub farming wheat. All that is this wheat over here will gradually grow due to these farm crystals. So you're going to go through, you're going to farm right here. You should get a lot of easy levels from this. I don't have a compactor, so my inventory is going to fill up. But basically you farm this one, you go all the way through all of these patches, and when you're finished, you just come right over to the lobby selector, right click to get your private lobby, and sometimes you don't get put in a private lobby, but then you go between all of them and farm. If you don't have a rank, you can't actually right click to try to get a private hub lobby, but you can just click on dead lobbies like hub level 12, 5 out of 80. Odds are there's going to be wheats, although this one was recently farmed, so maybe that was a bad point. That's how you want to get your early farming levels. Your first farming gear should be your farm suit, and it goes hand in hand with farming wheat. It's unlocked at wheat collection level 3. Very easy to craft. It's going to be 24 hay bales. You're going to get +5 farming fortune per piece. The 2 full set bonuses don't really matter. It's just the +20 total farming fortune. Don't worry about reforging this right away. It doesn't really matter. It's going to be your farm suit. You're going to move on from it very quickly. But at this point in the guide, I do want it to be fully comprehensive. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about in terms of farming fortune, here's the explanation. So farming fortune is one of the many fortunes in the game. And basically what farming fortune does is it multiplies crop drops based on your level of farming fortune. For example, if you have 150 farming fortune, this would equate to 250% multiplied to the drops. Each 100% has a guaranteed chance to give the player drops. So if it's 180 fortune, it's going to be 280%. You're guaranteed to get 2 times the drops and have an 80% chance on every crop break to get 3 times the drops. If this doesn't make sense, I'll throw a formula up on the screen and hopefully you guys are able to figure it out from there. The next armor you should be moving to is unlocked at wheat 9. It's going to be the farm armor. Now it's going to be the same as the farm suit, except it's going to be enchanted hay bales. So it's going to be 24 enchanted hay bales on the bazaar. This costs about 200k if you're able to use bazaar, and it basically doubles the fortune that you get from farm suit. So instead of 20, you're going to get 40. Now this does require farming level 10. That should be very easily gotten from just farming in the hub. But if you are struggling with that or you don't have the collection yet, feel free to do a few more hubs. It won't take very long. Your next purchase should be an epic rabbit for farming wisdom. This costs about 450k. Reason why you want an epic rabbit is because it grants bonus farming wisdom. Now, farming fortune is very important for making more money. Farming wisdom matters a lot for leveling up your farming skill, which in turn is going to give you more fortune because each level up gives you 4 more fortune. It also unlocks more things in farming, more recipes, and it's just overall what you want to be going for. Focused on levels first, farming fortune later, although they do kind of go hand in hand. The other thing you want to throw on it is just a 30% pet XP boost, just so that you get more experience from farming. It'll level up the pet faster, and you will gain more farming experience overall. Now again, since I want this to be fully comprehensive, let's go over what farming wisdom is. As always, there are many wisdoms in the game. It basically determines how much experience you get from doing a certain action. For example, if breaking a crop would normally give you 100 farming XP and you have 20 farming wisdom, you would get 120 farming XP. One thing to note is wisdom is additive. Easy ways to get more farming wisdom are going to be from having your cookie. You should always have a cookie buff active. If you are new to the game, you should have a free cookie that you can actually claim in this menu, or claim once you're able to talk to Elizabeth in the community center. You should always basically have a God Pot running. God Pots are going to give you every single potion effect in the game, including added farming wisdom. And for a normal player, they're going to last for 12 hours, but then it also scales based on your alchemy level. But buying one for 1.7, 1.4 mil for every 12 hours is still very good value. Both of these are required. You should basically have these running at all times for self-explanatory reasons, but also because it straight up just gives you more farming wisdom. So now by this point, you probably will have garden unlocked. You'll probably be like, oh, what is this garden? I'm going to have a lot of plots that I need to clear. You're not going to have this big open expanse and these pre-built farms. You're going to have plots you need to clear. Sam's going to show you how the garden works. And basically what you should be doing is you should be knocking out as many plots as you can, as many of the easy ones. At the beginning of the garden, I would just recommend using any of the default plots. You can buy the materials off of Bazaar. I don't know on Iron Man if you can buy the materials off Bazaar or not, or if you have to farm them out. But I do know that these should be the default farms that whatever you have unlocked, you should be placing down, unlocking another plot, placing that down, trying to farm these just to get the early garden levels for garden XP. Another couple required things once you start placing these plots down is you should get yourself a personal compactor, which is unlocked in the Redstone collection. Otherwise, it can be bought off AH for around 500 to 700k. Basically, all it's going to do is once you put it in your accessory bag, you can add items to it that it will automatically compact into, so that you don't have to worry about stopping farming, going into your crafting table, compacting it yourself. For example, my normal netherwort are going to get compacted into enchanted netherwort. My enchanted netherwort are going to get compacted into mutant netherwort. In your first personal compactor, it's only going to have one slot. So like if you're farming wheat, you probably just want to compact wheat into hay bales. That'd be the easiest way to do it. And then go from there. Gradually upgrade your personal compactor as your redstone collection increases, but you for sure need at least one, because otherwise farming is going to be a pain. The other thing that needs to be one of your first purchases, so once you complete a few visitors, it's going to be difficult at first because they're going to be relatively expensive. You're not going to have all the crops down, you're gonna have to farm them. If you're not an Iron Man, I would recommend just buying the materials off of Bazaar. Now you want to try to do as many visitors as possible, but you also don't want to go broke doing visitors. So try to balance it out, but you're shooting for 25 copper. Why are you shooting for 25 copper? Because once you get 25 copper, you can get yourself an advanced gardening hoe with Replenish. Replenish is the big thing here. The reason why Replenish is so good is because upon breaking crops, netherwort or cocoa, it automatically replants from materials in your inventory or sacks. And I'll explain what sacks are in a second. But the reason why Replenish is so good is because you can go out, go to your farm, start farming, it's automatically replanted. You don't have to worry about replanting, and it saves you a ton of time in the garden. Obviously, you should take this and throw a harvesting 5 on it, throw a robust on it, all the same stuff we did with the rookie hoe, except this should just be your new garden hoe. The other thing that is required for Replenish to not break is you do need to get yourself an agronomy sack. Bada bing, bada boom can be gotten from Wheat Collection once again at Wheat 7. You want to get yourself at least a small agronomy sack. You want to level it up again as you get more money, as you unlock more collections, and you're able to get a higher agronomy sack. But the reason why you need this is because the Replenish enchant takes crops from your inventory, but if there are no crops from your inventory, it won't replant. And if your agronomy sack always has an item in it, or is always putting items in it, it will always replant because you're just never going to run out of items. It'll never run out of items, even after you start compacting stuff. At some point, you want to get the agronomy sack to large. You also want to work on getting an enchanted agronomy sack just because sacks are goated and they save you a lot of inventory space. Now at this point, I know I didn't really go over copper, so let me go over copper. Basically what it is it's a currency gained from completing visitors, used for composter upgrades, crop upgrades, and purchases in the Sky Mart. Really the only purchases in the Sky Mart that you should be making are at some point Green Thumb, all of the Lotus equipment, the advanced gardening hole like I said, and then as you go the vacuums. And I guess you could buy the garden scythe, but I just buy that off AH, it's only 130k. You want to conserve copper. Your first uses for copper should just be easy crop upgrades. For example, if you head over here, these are going to be like 5 copper, 10 copper, 20 copper, and it's going to gradually scale. But this is easy wheat fortune, or easy fortune per the specific crop that you're buying it for. It's also going to give you easy Skyblock XP. Same thing with composter upgrades. Composter always makes money even at the base level if you are using oil barrels and boxes of seeds. And so you want to try to get these to at least level 10, because up to level 10 it's relatively cheap. Now this isn't something you should 100% focus right away, but it is something you should get done eventually. I can actually include a spreadsheet that lets you calculate what makes profit with it, and I will have that linked in the description. I did not make it, so I'm not taking any credit for it. I just found it on the forums, and I thought that it was a very useful tool for you guys. So by this point, you've probably been farming in the basic farms, and you know they kind of suck. They're not very efficient. You've been seeing my massive farms, and you're like, man, how do I get the efficient farms like that? Well, let me show you. Whoa, where did I go? What I'm gonna recommend you build are Melon King D farms. It basically Grove Man Dan farms. Grove Man Dan has recently come out with a mega farm, which is something, that's what this like big old farm is called. A mega farm 6.0, this is the 6th version. This design is pest proof for those of you that are dealing with pests, isn't everybody? And it's also the most efficient set of farms up until this point. I will link his video down in the description as well. I don't want to steal his video. I don't want to steal his builds. I want to give him all the credit, but that's what I would recommend you build. The one thing I would add is I was reading through some comments, and there's actually some cool comments. So one of the quick tips is Silent Death and Shadow Fury work on pests and make it really easy to get them. I did not know that. There's also a place underneath that pests can spawn in the melon pumpkin farm, but you can just place dirt in there to avoid pest spawning there. I'll let you guys figure that out as you watch the video. Now, a lot of you have been hearing me say pest this, pest that. What on earth is a pest? Basically what pests are, a super quick overview, is they're a counter to macros. So as you farm in your garden, once you hit, I think it's a certain garden level. I don't remember what garden level it is, but once you hit a certain garden level, you start getting pests. Basically what they are is they're little bugs that spawn on your garden. As they spawn, you will start to receive less farming fortune. Now, you don't receive less farming fortune until you're at 4 total pests on your garden. At 4, you're losing 5% of your farming fortune. At 5, you're losing 15. 6, you're losing 30. 7, I believe you're losing 50, and 8, I believe you're losing 100, but don't quote me on that because I'm not actually positive about 7 and 8 because I've never actually gotten there. I always get my pests before then. But it's very important to vacuum up these pests as they spawn. They have some cool little drops and some cool drop tables, including a bunch of stuff that I will go over at some point. Back to the Grove Man Dan farms. Now this is a 2-row a plot farms. What does that mean? It means that you should be buying 2 full rows. So either the row left of the barn and then the 2 corners along with that row, or the row right of the barn along with the 2 corners. You will need 201 compost for 1 full row, bought at 21k per, that's about 4.2 mil. You will need 210 compost and 1 compost bundle for a second full row, which is about 8 mil at 21k per. So for 2 full rows, it's about 12.2 mil. That's not bad at all. It might take a little bit to farm out if you are completely new, but once you get those done, get those cleared, mine them out, you should be able to build the Grove Man Dan farms and be incredibly efficient. If you're curious, I also did the math for buying a 3rd row. You need 23 compost bundles for a 3rd full row, which is about 83 mil, but it's not something that is required. When building these farms, I just want to recommend some tools that will help you. Get yourself an Infinidirt wand that's bought from Anita for 1 Jacob's ticket, very cheap. get yourself a builder's ruler, which is bought from the desk for 20 copper or bought off AH. I prefer to spend coins. I prefer to not spend copper. It's very good. On the right click, you place a line of blocks. On a left click, you can put blocks in and out of it. And on a sneak right click, you delete a line of blocks. There used to be a way to reset builder ruler cooldown, which it is when you would leave. So when it would go on cooldown, you would leave to go to the hub or another server for 7 seconds, come back, the cooldown would just magically be gone. I believe they reworked it in a recent patch to the point where there is no cooldown, but I'm not positive. That might have been the builder's wand and not the builder's ruler. So I'd still recommend testing it. Whoever sees this first, if someone would like to leave a comment, and I will pin it on whether it works or does not work. The other thing I recommend for building the farms is going to be also from Anita. Prisma pumps, at least one you need. The more you have, the merrier, but at least one, which costs 1 bronze medal and 2 Jacob's tickets, as well as a hoe of greatest tilling, which costs 2 silver medals and 20 Jacob's tickets. Elbin is 2.6 mil, but trust me, it is worth it. It is so nice to just be able to hoe rows and rows and rows of plots. You're probably thinking, okay, Yadi, I've done all the starter stuff. I have it all laid out. What crop should I be farming? And really, you should just be farming every crop. The reason why is because you're trying to get to garden level 15. The faster you get to garden level 15, the faster you unlock more visitors, you unlock spaceman at some point, you unlock Mave, and it unlocks more crops as well as the crop upgrades. You should be slowly leveling these up as equally as you can. Now at some point at like crop milestone 20, crop milestone 17 maybe, you'll want to start focusing on mushroom. The reason why you want to focus on mushroom is because it gives the most farming experience, and it also does not require a replenished hoe to farm it. You can just buy yourself a fungi cutter and go ham. You also have the chance of dropping burrowing spores, so if you have good RNG or you've got Yadi stream luck, then you can make a lot of money off of burrowing spores, which are currently 5 mil per on Bazaar. Experience is better than money when you're first starting out with farming. Other easy ways to get farming fortune, which maybe I should have mentioned a little bit earlier, are going to be cakes. You can /visit Yadi for cakes. You eat the brown one. The brown one is farming fortune, but I'd still recommend getting all the cakes every 24 hours for that tiny extra stat buffs. They do actually matter. As well as at this point, you should have the community center unlocked, and you should be heading over to Elizabeth and getting your garden farming fortune upgrades. They take a long time to fully max out, but it's free fortune. It's completely free to do. You might as well do it. It's 40 bonus farming fortune. It's more money. One other thing I would like to mention about the Grove Man Dan farms, the stacked farms. So if you're farming stacked crops like wheat, carrot, potato, netherware, any of those that are stacked in like you're in the middle of the farm, don't leave your farm as soon as pests spawn to go get those pests. Because number one, if it's 3 or less, you're not losing any farming fortune by just leaving them and getting them later. And it takes longer to leave, get them, go back, find your spot in the stacked farms. If it's 4, I mean, you could go get them. You're only losing on 5% of your farming fortune. Anything over 4, so 5, 6, 7, 8, you should definitely leave your farm, go get those pests, and then you can either return to your spot or you can just start again at the top. That only matters for those crops because at sugarcane, you can just fly up and you can find your spot. Same with cactus, same with cocoa beans, same with melon, pumpkin for the most part, as well as mushroom. In terms of turbo vacuums for pests, every level of pest bestiary gives you 0.4 farming fortune, so yes, you do need to be getting pests. You don't need to like find some kind of fancy farm that, oh, you can skip pests this way, even though I don't think it's possible. At max bestiary, that's a total of 60 farming fortune. You can also turn in pests, which I have not turned in pests in a long time. I have 1,225 pests in my turbo pack, but you can turn them into Philip for bonus farming fortune for the next 30 minutes. So this bonus actually maxes out at 40 pests given at a time for plus 200 farming fortune. So trust me, I'm still going to end up using all these pests for farming fortune. You can't actually empty it for over 40. It'll cap you at 40, so you can't build up multiple 30 minutes on top of each other. For most efficiency, I believe it's giving 20 pests for 100 farming, or for 150 farming fortune. I'm not positive about efficiency for when you should be giving pests, but you definitely want to give pests, and you definitely want to give pests sooner rather than later because you want to get yourself these Pest Hunter talismans. Also, as you go, you should be leveling up your vacuum. Costs a decent amount of copper, but the more damage you have, the easier it is to handle pests. Eventually maxing out at Affinivum Huvarius. Once you have Affinivum Huvarius, you want to reforge it with Buzzing, which will double the damage, and you'll be able to one-shot every pest, and it'll make pests so much nicer to deal with. Some cool mods that I want to include is, first of all, Dulker controls. It's a great mod. It's found in my Discord or in Dulker's Discord, but if you just want the direct GitHub link, you can join my Discord down below or at discord.gg/theogyadi. It has this thing called farming controls, which you can set the toggle to. I have it set to J. Basically, all it does is when you enable it, it turns your sense super low, so you don't end up losing your angle on whatever crop you're farming, and it also turns your brake to spacebar so that you can just keep going like this. Oh, you got some pests to figure out. Oh, I can just hit J again. My controls turn back to normal. It makes it way, way easier. If you use the same sense as normal, you don't have to change it, but if you use a different sense, you can also set the default sensitivity so say my sense is 1.2, I can set it to 1.2. It'll switch back to 1.2 when I toggle the farming controls. Another good mod to use is Skyhanny. I don't actually use Skyhanny, so it's hard for me to talk about it. I know it has a lot of useful things. There are definitely people in my Discord that use it, so feel free to join the Discord, ask questions about it, but I just don't have those answers. I probably should be using it. I don't, so that's enough for that. So I know you're probably overwhelmed, but that's just the early game portion of the game. It's a lot. It's very confusing because the garden's a whole new place. You got to learn all of the mechanics. You got to learn what farms are efficient. You got to learn the basics, how to get the easy farming portion. But here we're moving on to the mid game. It took a while, but we're here. At this point, I'm going to assume you guys know the basics, so I'm kind of just going to go through a big progression line of what you should be getting when. First thing you should be getting in mid-game is going to be Lotus equipment. Lotus equipment can be bought off AH or it can be bought with copper. Again, I recommend buying with coins because copper is a scarce resource. You should be getting it. You should be recomming it. You should be throwing a flowering bouquet on there at first. You can buy from Bazaar. It's like 2 coins, literally like 2 coins. Flowering bouquet is going to give +4 farming fortune at epic. So once this is recommed. The Lotus equipment is very good. It gives base farming fortune, base 5 farming fortune, and then up until 5,000 visitors, you get a piece bonus. So total, it can max out at +65 farming fortune per piece, which is a lot of farming fortune from just equipment. Your next armor that you should be buying after the farm suit is going to be melon armor. Melon armor is crafted with 120 enchanted melons, but it does require farming level 25. So this is why it's mid-game, because farming level 25, I'd say, is about mid-game. Each piece gives +15 farming fortune. Let me rephrase. Each piece does not give +15 farming fortune. It gives it different depending on the piece. The total set gives +55 farming fortune, excluding boots. You do not want to use the melon boots. The reason why is you want to use rancher boots, which can also be bought off AH for 5 mil. These unlock at farming 21, but you could also use farmer's boots if you want to upgrade them at farming 18. Rancher's boots are very good because they, number one, give you just a ton of fortune. They're epic base boots, so they can be recommed to legendary, as well as the fact that you can set your speed. So after watching the Grove Man Dan video, I don't know if it includes this, but each farm has a specific speed that is the most efficient to farm that farm. So these farms are not actually the Grove Man Dan 6.0 farms. I just didn't want to rebuild my farms. But for any of the stackable crops, my specific speed is 93. Sugarcane is 327. The melons are going to be 155. Cactus is going to be 467, but I think 400 is a cap unless you have a racing helmet. Cocoa, I think, is 155, but I'm not positive. So each crop has a different speed that is the most efficient to grind it at. As a pet, you should definitely stay with a rabbit pet for bonus farming fortune until you have farming 40. The reason why you want farming 40 is because you can get your hands on Fermental armor, which is the best farming armor in the game. Fermental armor requires a previous upgrade, which is Squash armor, which requires a previous upgrade, which is Crappie armor. Crappie armor gets unlocked at farming 30. You do want to gradually level up your armor as you hit the certain farming levels. At this point, you also want to start grabbing crop-specific items, which includes the different hoes, the different axes, the cocoa chopper, The only thing you technically don't have to purchase is going to be the fungi cutter, because you can buy a dataless axe, and a dataless axe is just going to be straight up better for mushroom. I believe even without Kim 5, but I'd like to have somebody confirm that for me. You can grab the specific crops from Anita, including the Mathematical Hope Blueprint, the Pumpkin Dicer, Melon Dicer, Fungi Cutter, Cactus Knife, as well as the Cocoa Chopper. Each one costs a gold medal and 32 Jacob's tickets. You're probably not going to be getting gold medals at this point, but what you can do is you can medal trade. So if you get 4 silvers, you can trade it up to a gold. You can use the gold to purchase the blueprints. And as you level up your farming piece, you'll start to get more metal, start to make more money. It all compounds. For all hoes, replenish is obviously going to be a must. Other needed enchantments are going to include harvesting, cultivating, turbo of the specific crop. So if it was sugarcane, it'd be turbo sugarcane, as well as dedication 3. Axes should also include Sunder 5. The reforges on these should be blessed, again blessed for bonus experience. Blessed does require mining level 25 to apply, so that's something to keep in mind when you're choosing to either build the item yourself or buy it off AH. Blessed is going to give 16 farming fortune as well as 5 farming wisdom. Easy and cheap pet item is going to be the yellow bandana. As of when I wrote the script, it was worth 1.8 mil. It's still worth 1.8 mil. It's just a free plus 30 farming fortune. Once your epic rabbit is at level 100, it should have a yellow bandana on it. The reforge that you should have on your armor is going to be the Skymart brochure. Skymart brochure can be bought for 100 copper, or the more efficient way would be buying it off of Bazaar for 500k per, because it does give bonus farming fortune. It's not a ton, it's very cheap, but it's nice to have until you decide to go for more expensive reforges. By this point, you should be spending your copper on your crop upgrades. Try to get them to at least level 7. Level 7 is relatively cheap. If not level 7, level 6, and you can focus on getting the more expensive ones, spending all that copper later. To wrap up mid-game, basically all it is it's farming, getting a ton of farming levels, making enough money to upgrade your stuff. You're not going to make a ton of money during this time to spend on other things. This is all the reinvestment phase. But the funny part is, in any progression throughout any skill in the game, mid-game is always going to be the reinvestment phase where you're not making a lot of money. You're just trying to set up yourself for a ton of money making once you're late game. And what did you know, we made it to late game. Now, as always, I'm going to talk you guys through the progression, but by this point, you guys are almost farming pros. This is basically just going to be a checklist of stuff that you need to get. By the end of it, before you start going for max crop milestones, you should have this all. Otherwise, you are just wasting your time. So the first thing I want to go over is get Pest Terminator on your armor. It's about 3 mil per, which is cheaper than when I wrote the guide. When I wrote the guide, it was about 5 mil per. It gives plus 2 bonus pest chance as well as plus 1 farming fortune. You're doing it for the farming fortune. I mean, the pest chance is nice, but most people don't specifically pest farm because you're going to max pests way before you're going to max crop milestones. Pest Terminator books are also dropped from beetles. Next thing you need to get your hands on is the chirping stereo. The chirping stereo costs 7 mil, and it is used on the Infiniboom vacuum to get the Infiniboom vacuum Hoovarius. Now this is something that can be gotten during mid game. I just put it in end game because it's the end game of the vacuums, you know what I mean? You can also use discs once you have this. I have them all. They're pretty cheap that you can buy off AH right now, but use discs to attract certain pests. And from my experience, about half or over half of the pests that spawn are going to be the pests that you are playing your vinyls for. I'm currently doing crickets just because I'm trying to level up all of my pests equally, so I'm trying to get to each one to about 200 kills and then swapping to the next one. The other thing you need to make sure you have are wriggling larvas. Wriggling larvas cost about 6 mil to get plus 2 bonus pest chance per. You can consume up to 5 of them. I'd recommend just doing that because you are going to need more pests at some point, as well as easy skyblock XP. These are a 0.5% drop from moths. And I brought this up before, but just make sure that you are getting yourself the Pest Hunter artifact. That's going to be plus 60 pest chance. It requires, I think, 250 pests turned in, which 250 pests by this point should be a piece of cake. The other thing I want to mention is once you do max pests, you are going to want to start buying yourself a pest repellent max, because then you start spawning less and less of them. Now, if you want money, I would not use this spray, but if you want farming to be easier so that you're not having to go out of your way to go get pests every, I'd say 10 minutes, then you should be using this pest repellent, especially during contests. That is something I forgot to mention during mid-game. When you're going for gold medals, use the pest repellents. A quick thing for getting pests is they are actually shown on your plot. So if there is a pest here, it'll say 2 pests here, 4 pests here, and then so that you don't have to use your little tracking thing on your vacuum and then fly halfway across the garden to be able to find them. You should be maxing out your fermento armor with everything that it needs. Recom, Mossy, which is about 55 to 60 mil right now. You should be moving on from your rabbit to a mushroom cow. Even if you're low MP, mushroom cow is always going to make more money. And the other good thing about mushroom cow is mushroom eater perk. When breaking mature crops, there's a 100% chance that a mushroom will drop, so you'll gradually get mushroom milestones without actually having to farm mushrooms, which is very, very nice. Elephant should almost never be used unless you're going for gold in a contest, you're going for diamond in a contest and you can't get it. Purely outclassed by a mushroom in terms of money, and at I think 1140 MP, mushroom outclasses it in terms of farming fortune as well. Make sure your axes have hot potato books and fumings on them for bonus farming fortune, so that includes the mellow dicer, pumpkin dicer, and the cocoa chopper. By this point, you should be close to garden 15 or be garden 15, so your pet item should be a green bandana, which is about 6 mil, but it gives plus 60 farming fortune at garden 15 as opposed to plus 30 from the yellow bandana. Make sure you get yourself the fermento artifact that's plus 30 farming fortune for all crops, not specific crops like its predecessors. Get the burrowing spores for your equipment, which again you can buy order for 3 mil apparently, but they're about 5 mil. They at Epic, they're going to give you plus 15 farming fortune per, which totals at plus 60 farming fortune total, which again is a lot. You're going to need a black cat pet for cactus again, because black cat with green bandana is apparently the second best way to farm cactus now after the Rancher Boots nerf. The fastest way would be with a racing helmet, but I mean, come on, racing helmets are like 5 bill, aren't they? Probably more at this point. Make sure each tool has a farming for dummies, or has 5 farming for dummies on it, which cost about 2 mil per, but that's just 5 fortune right there. Make sure you get harvesting 6. Harvesting 6 is probably something I should have included in the mid game, but I'm sure a lot of mid gamers are watching this guide still. It's 3 mil. It's going to give you a bonus 12.5 farming fortune as opposed to harvesting 5. Get it, very easy. By this point, you should be getting most of your visitors done, so you should start looking into green thumb. You could either buy with copper. I wouldn't, just because I used all my copper on crop upgrades and composter upgrades, so I bought mine with coins, which is about 7 to 8 mil. It fluctuates, it definitely does. It's 0.05 farming fortune per level, multiplied by how many unique visitors you have served. There's 79 unique visitors in the game, so green 1 thumb on every piece would give you 3.75 farming fortune per level if you have accepted every visitor in the game. So at green thumb 5, that's going to total at 18.75 farming fortune per piece, and there's 4 pieces obviously that it can go on. Make sure you recom everything. Recoms are about 7 mil per. Unlocking all plots will also give plus 3 farming fortune per. This is something you should start working on eventually. I know it gets expensive, but the bonus farming fortune does make a difference. For all plots at 21k per compost, it costs about 254 mil. I know it's a lot, and I know farming starts to get really expensive by this point, but it's something that's got to be done if you want to be an endgame farmer. By this point, you should be working on crop upgrades 8 and 9. Start working on Dedi 4, which Dedi 4, when I made this guide, was 110 mil. It's actually dropped. It's 81 mil buy order. I'd recommend buy ordering that, which obviously is going to double the farming fortune as opposed to dedication 3. So if your crop milestone is 30, instead of dedication 3 where you get 30 farming fortune, you get 60 farming fortune from dedication. Daedalus axe, especially with Kim, is going to be better for cocoa beans and mushrooms. I'm going to use cocoa chopper for cocoa beans, just because I don't want to have to repaste the plot every time just to replant this. because you can't have replenish on a Daedalus axe, but definitely use Daedalus for mushroom. Chimera is also going to benefit you greatly and get you more farming fortune. I would not recommend buying Chimera unless Diana is in office and they're 110 mil or less, but it's really your decision. Make sure you get Sunder 6 at 7 mil. Again, this is another thing that could probably go into the mid-game farming. I kind of just have this checklist at the end of stuff I forgot. But it's dropped from Locust and it gives 62.5 farming fortune. Correction, Sunder 5 gives 62.5 farming fortune. Sunder 6 gives 75 farming fortune, so it's plus 12.5 farming fortune on axes. Once you have all of that, then you should start working on Green Thumb tiers 4 to 5 because these are going to be extremely expensive. Like Green Thumb 4 is 32 mil for a bonus, basically 4 farming fortune, and Green Thumb 5 is 64 mil for a bonus 4 farming fortune. So it definitely gets expensive, but if you truly want to be maxed, this is what you got to do. Other niche things is you should be turning in exportable carrots in the Crimson Isles. You should be turning in expired pumpkins in the Crimson Isles. The carrots cost about 24 mil. The expired pumpkins cost about 10 mil. You give 3,000 to Carol and Scarleton, and you just give plus 12 farming fortune for carrots and plus 12 farming fortune for pumpkins. Very, very easy. Now that we're through the checklist, we get to the fun part. So, in terms of max farming fortune, now keep in mind it's not going to show in tab because it doesn't actually show the farming fortune from your item or your PBs and stuff like that. One other thing I forgot to mention is during contests, you should be getting PBs. The higher your PBs, the more farming fortune you get. I'd say about 40 is about average, so if you can get above 40, that'd be very, very nice. But that's also something that's just gonna gradually happen. Sorry I missed that, boys. But back to what I was saying, max farming fortune. 1784 farming fortune universally. If you're curious about where I'm getting these numbers, by the way, I'm getting them from the fandom wiki, I believe, not the actual wiki, so I'm getting it from the fandom wiki. You can have up to 880 farming fortune for axe farming, or about 1892 for pumpkins because of expired pumpkins. 1969 farming fortune for mushrooms, including a Chimera 5 Daedalus axe. 1909 farming fortune for cocoa beans. 1900 if you're using a cocoa chopper instead of Daedalus axe. 2073 farming fortune for any hoe-based farming if the tool has a billion counter, so this is not a billion counter, and you have a billion collection. And it's about 2085 for carrots because of exportable carrots. All of these values are calculated with a plus 50 farming fortune from your PBs, which seems a little high, as well as with Maeve's potion. Quick little thing I want to add in for Anita contest. You want to donate 40 pests for plus 200 farming fortune because that's just going to make the contest that much easier. You want to drink the Harvest Harbinger potion, which can be gotten from Maeve, and it can also be bought off of AH. It'll give you plus 50 farming fortune for 25 minutes. I don't know if this can be increased with Parrot or not. It's possible, or with like brewing the enchanted redstone block with it. I doubt it, but it's possible. The other thing you want to do is drink yourself a repellent. This is basically the only time you should be drinking repellent before your max pests is when you're doing contests, just so you don't have to worry about pests. So you guys may or may not have thought that I missed the pest farming meta that a lot of people use to max pests because they had already maxed their garden milestones. I did not. There are specific pest farmers. Now, back when Garden first came out, these made a ton of money just because the drops were worth so much more. If you want the most bonus pest chance, specifically for pest farming, you need Pesterminator 5 Mushroom Armor. That gives 120 bonus pest chance total. A Night Saber can be used on your garden for permanent night, so you get the permanent ×3 bonuses. With a Slug Pet, you get plus 40 bonus pest chance. With Wriggling Larva, you get plus 10. With Atmospheric Filter, during autumn, you get minus 15% cooldown on pests, which I believe the cooldown on pests is 2.5 minutes, but I'm not positive. The Pest Hunter artifact is going to give plus 60 bonus pest chance. Sprayinator spraying on each plot is going to give plus 50 bonus pest chance, and that's totaled at 280 bonus pest chance, which gives you a guaranteed 3 pests to spawn every time they spawn, with an 80% chance at 4 pests. Breaking sugarcane also increases the chance of pest spawning because you're breaking 2 crops at once. I believe that also applies to cactus. Now, if you guys did enjoy the video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. This is something I've been wanting to get out for a long time. Hopefully it's something useful. Hopefully I didn't miss anything too egregious. If I did, let me know in the comments. I try to have as many people review this as possible so I didn't forget anything, and it may have been ordered weirdly, but hopefully you guys got all the information you needed and you become an elite farmer. Check out the stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/TheOGYadi. Join the Discord, discord.gg/Yadi, and I will see you guys in the next one.